my open view, I am not in favour of what's proposed at Wine Creek because
You're not, sorry?
as I see it, it locks us into the longest, most expensive barge route for vehicles between the island and the mainland, and will also lock us into the most expensive type of parking, a parking building owned and operated by private developers. So, for those reasons, I do not favour what's been proposed there. That's my own personal opinion, but I'll just throw that in.
It's not a given. Two things. The barge is currently located at Wynnum Creek. That's just out and out
Wine Creek
there.
will always exist for the island.
No. For the ferries, yes. But the barge could relocate anywhere. It could do any number of things. Its location right here, right now, is on the northern part of the PDA area. But there's no suggestion that that's moving or changing in any way. If the operators decided to do a roll-on, roll-off, move to a different location, they're all things that, will be discussed at a time in the future if it were to happen. But the ferry will always come in through Wynnum Creek, you're absolutely right. And the parking there it's meeting the needs that we have right here, right now. It has to be there. It has to go ahead. And while you say you're 75, to me you're looking good health. I reckon you'll see some action on the PDA area, no problem at all. Sorry.
Point I was trying to make there earlier on, and seems to have sort of gone by the board a bit. We've been fighting this issue for a long time, and ultimately we've been blocked in many different areas. All these ideas are great and would work great if all the things work nicely in the favour, and they don't. We've always had to come back to the same point that we need Wynnum Creek now. We're not looking to have our next barge route in 10 years. We need Wynnum Creek now. And this is the whole problem. That's what we're facing, and this is why we don't want any interferences upsetting what we're trying to achieve. Our biggest concerns, to my way of thinking, is that we do not let private enterprise overtake what the islands need, which could happen very easily. As you said, if someone built a marina and they could encroach on our parking marina, they would also be looking to engage in our parking area. So we've got all these things that we have to face now, not later down the track. And this is part of the problem. We really need to get that sorted there, and then if we want these other ideas, let's fight for them. Let's do them. But we've got to get this sorted now.
One at a time. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Sorry, you had a question? I'll come back to you.
What I was going to say is something that not a lot of deal has been made out thus far is that yes, the cost is from your point of view is in servicing the islands. One thing is I don't care how it's done, just so long as it's more affordable to get things here and back for business, for transport, for pleasure, for getting places. But if the transport becomes something that people can afford, it makes business locally viable. If you need a business supplies here, if you need them back, if you need furniture, if you need everything. But if we can make it viable to live here and trade on the mainland, we'll then have businesses starting here, because as it is, if you've just got the island market, it's a fairly poor community. It's very hard to turn a profit. You've got a lot of people, you've got pensioners, you've got people on the dole, you've got people on the dole because there's no road, because it's not viable to hold a business here. As soon as the transport is cheaper, you'll start to see more businesses and more things that we can do locally so we don't get young poor.
Can I suggest that you may be slightly misguided in that, but happy to have a broader conversation. If you get really cheap transport to the mainland, guess where you're going shopping? You're going shopping on the mainland. You're not supporting local.
Yes, you are. You've still got to buy local.
There's a supermarket up here. There's 2 or 3 supermarkets and shopping centres over on Macleay. So support them as they will employ people. Encourage business to start up on the islands. That's how you resolve it. But if you make it cheap to go to the mainland, that's where you're going to do your shopping. That's where you're going to spend your money.
There are communities with local shops that don't ever have to worry about whether coal is going to take over.
I'm a bit concerned how long before they reckon that Wynnum Creek will be done, first part.
They're allowing for 2,500 cars.
No,
No.
that's what's projected is needed. I'm trying to provision for that. In the first instance, I imagine there'll be 1,500.
But there's 12,000 blocks on the island.
Yes, there are.
How far are we looking into the future to accommodate? What's the current growth now, and what is going to be had by the time the development is finished? Haven't we reached capacity once it's finished, and then we've got to look at another alternative because there's no room for a car park anyway?
The 2,500 car parks, my recollection is about 2026, was it?
Something like that, yes.
It's in the mid-20s, so that's projected out to there with a modest growth. I think there'll be more growth on the islands, but that's only my view.
I'm with you,
But
but
hang on,
it doesn't work out.
in the meantime, right, that's a 10-year window. Let's operate that it's that mid-20s.
How many have you got there?
Please, can you let me finish? And this will be a lot easier on all of us. The projection is over 10 years, we're going to need to get to 2,500 car parks.
That's too far away.
Right here, right now, we need and we provide 1,500. So that number will grow. So in 5 years' time, you might need another 500, and then in 5 years' time, you need another
500 on a
500.
waiting
That's
list now.
the projections as they are now, according to the reports. I think they're lied on. Set that aside. We've actually targeted. That's what we're planning for. That's where we're going for. But if the argument is put and the case is valid and it stacks up for a short barge or a bridge to Russell, and let's just talk about Russell, that then lessens the pressure on Wynoke Creek from a parking point of view and from the barge point of view.
Yep.
So that 2,500 now may carry us out to 2050
If we
if that
had a
scenario
bridge.
were to happen.
If we had
Like I said, if tomorrow we woke up and the Campbell Bridge was being built, right, the Can-Do Bridge, if that was being built tomorrow to Russell Island, it would take 5 years for it to be finished, I reckon. By the time it took them 7 or 8 years. I think. A long time.
Hornybrook?
Sorry?
One or both?
Well, they've been building it for an awful long time.
Yeah, they had one and then they put another one.
They had one, I don't know how long it took to build, then they built another one, yes, I don't know how long it took to
What
build.
was the Hornibrook bit?
Don't know. Last time I checked, I live in Redlands and I read it clear.
No, that's what
I don't
they...
wasn't
know.
long.
I don't know. I just don't know.
Can we find out?
How long it took to
18
build?
months. Approximately
Is it
18 months.
relevant?
Yeah, because it'll give us an indication how
My
long...
mother lives at
It may be relevant depending on what they're building into as compared to what we're building into, whether it's sand versus mud, the number of lanes, hang on, the number of lanes, how long it is. You can't just pluck numbers out of the air. This is the challenge that I face. You hit the nail on the head. It's about getting accurate, factual information so you make good decisions, good quality decisions.
But hasn't that all been researched before?
Yes,
Well,
many
So then don't
times.
you already have that
No,
information? What
I don't believe we do. The GHD put forward the proposal for 110, didn't factor in the extra roads beyond where it touches the land. Didn't factor that in. So then you have to do costings on that.
Hang on, Brian knows.
Well, you know, I've got Lindsay here saying no, it didn't add in. I've got you saying it did. So I'm on a holding to nothing here. Peter, you have a question.
Yes, look, I'm at 75 years old. It's not much interest for me personally. But what I'm thinking for the young generation, we need a transport. What we need, an option for the bridge.
Yep.
Yes.
For the young generation is that the best idea.
Peter's just saying that from his point of view, it's about the next generation. He's old enough to not really be bothered too much either way, but for the next generations, and you're exactly right, Peter.
No,
For me, I'm 75.
Yeah.
I'm pensioner. I pay very cheap in the ferry. There's a merit instead of that.
You're lucky because I'm supporting
For the
you.
young generation, we need a bridge.
All right, thanks, Peter. No?
Future development.
Peter, I'm the same age as well, and I can't see the bridge happening in my life.
Same age as me?
As this man.
Oh.
Not as you, this man. He was 75, wasn't he? And I just think you've got to look at the big picture.
Yeah.
I might not see it, but you've got to look at future generations. Cars cars get the best view in the world all day sitting there, and it's the prime real estate. We could have a South Bank over there if we got rid of all the cars.
Absolutely.
Just build a bridge.
Okay, just build a
go
bridge.
with it.
Just build a bridge. Okay, hang on. Just build a bridge. How easy is that?
Easy.
I build it to Russell Island.
Yes.
No, and to Macleay.
Oh, hang on. Now we
Once they build it to Russell,
Now you start to see the gist of my problem. Is I can't just build a bridge. I can.
Yes, you can.
I can't. Well, let's just build a bridge to Russell. I still have parking issues. I still have public transport issues. I still have barge issues at Wynup Creek. They don't go away. They are lessons
already.
They are lessons, but unless I bridge them all, I don't resolve it.
No, I'm happy not to be
Have you done a
bridged.
survey of Macleay?
No, I haven't.
Well, that's-
But I have a...
But you're cutting us out before you even
No,
know if you want one.
No, it's a conversation that we need to have, and I think Mark's bang on the money. Let's have this proper conversation. This is a great starting point. My gut feel, and it's only my gut feel, right? This is the way I think the islanders, if I were to do a vote tomorrow, I think that the people in favour of a bridge on Russell Island would probably be, look, 60-70% in favour of bridging or barging. Sorry?
84%.
I'll take your numbers then, Brian. Brian reckons 84. On Russell Island, hang on.
Yep.
If I go just across the way there to Carragara and ask them to bridge the island, I reckon it'll be 80, 90 against.
Well, don't bridge Carra.
Hang on. There's a physical constraint here, a huge challenge for me. Carra sits right between here and Macleay and Lamb. So I can't kind of go around it. I can't really just go over it and not
Lamb
touch
doesn't
on it.
want a bridge.
So anyway, if I had that
Lamb doesn't
survey
want a
on
bridge, do they, Ellen?
Macleay,
No,
right,
that's
I'm
right.
prepared to be challenged.
Macleay doesn't
I
want.
reckon my gut feel for Macleay would be probably 70...
95.
Hang on. I reckon 75% against
Yeah.
a bridge. Okay? There lies my challenge, and it's where I started the day. And if I go to Lamb, hang on, if I go to Lamb, it's probably that 60, 70 again, against being linked up.
90 there, she goes. Then just bridge Russell.
Oh, you're not interested in the bridge now? Yeah.
I like living on an island.
Right.
But the point is that I'm also aware that we are in dire straits over transport situation. Like, it is really phenomenal how much money we have to pay to go on the car bar. It's ridiculous. So, and because as I've stated before, I've come from areas, I've only lived here 5 years, I've lived in lots of different places, Sydney, Melbourne, whatever, all over the streets, doesn't matter. But the point is that there are many different ways of looking at something. And if you did put a cable barge in across that narrow piece between Rocky Point and whatever it's called over there, you've been in so many places, I don't even know what it is now, but under the power lines anyway. Why can't you get a barge that goes across the different islands? And if they do want to get across to the mainland, all they've got to do is get on the barge and go straight across from Russell Island. And then it's a much shorter trip than going all the way around the world. Simple way of doing it.
No, just the barge would then bring you to Russell. You get on the to where? On the barge.
It sounds so familiar when you say it. It really does.
It's just a plan.
Is that what they're charging you?
It's workable.
See, you think it's workable. I don't believe
One way.
As being workable
And we don't want to come out of
see it as being workable up at Double Island Point.
But that's why we've got to have Wynup Creek.
Now, let me just exercise that a little further. I live on Macleay now. Your suggestion, tell me if I get any of this wrong, is that you live on Macleay and you want to drive back to the mainland. So what you're going to do is you're going to drive from the middle, from the top, from the bottom end of Macleay, you're going to get onto a barge. That barge is then going to come around and it's going to go to...
How long does it take to get from Macleay to Russell Island?
Let him finish. Let him finish.
So then you're going to go around to
How long
Lang.
does it take to get from Brendon Bay to Macleay Island?
40 minutes.
Thank you. I rest my case.
Okay, you've rested your case, let me finish. Because all you've done is you've taken 20 minutes, half the time, to get to this point just down here. You haven't driven, hang on, please man, let me finish. You haven't got to the bottom of the island to your departure point to get on another 20, maybe 30-minute operation.
5-minute operation.
I'm sorry, the gentleman said it's probably 15, 20 minutes across.
I used to get on the Mogul ferry all the time. I know how long
The
it takes.
Mogul ferry's a river barely wide as this room.
I know how long it takes. Oh,
And it's a roll on, roll off.
You've never been on it.
I have, and it's roll on, roll off.
Not less than 5 minutes to download 19 cars at a time. I know how long it takes. I've done it for 16 years.
Fantastic.
The timing really needs to be upgraded here.
Okay. You're going infinitely further than that, and you've got loading time, and you've got unloading time at the other end.
I
It is
would
not,
say less than 5 minutes.
well, 5 minutes loading, correct.
You end up nowhere.
5 minutes unloading, 5 minutes unloading, and a 15-minute journey across. Let's say it's 10 minutes. Let's say it's 10 minutes across. So you've got 20 minutes on the boat there, 20 minutes on the boat at the bottom.
Cost you $10 as against 90.
I don't believe that for 1 minute. I think that's more tooth fairy country.
And how much is it going to cost
But
me?
hang on,
You've got $3.50 on the Mogul ferry. Why would you put any more? And that's a straight road ferry.
you're going across, you've
You do
driven,
realise that's a
you've
straight
given.
road ferry
Yes, I
run by
did.
the council, don't you?
Yes, I did.
Good.
Absolutely. The distance that you've driven down the road, you've not allocated 10 minutes to get from the top to the bottom of the Russell, and I think it's about a 15-minute drive. And you've dropped off at
It's not even
the southern bank of the Logan River. You've ended up in Woongoolba. You've got 10 minutes of cane fields, maybe 15 to get to the highway.
Down to the Gold Coast. What's
Absolutely fabulous.
Most people don't.
You're still-
Watering Beachmere. What's the state
You're
of
still
going
quicker going across. You really don't want to hear the truth, do you?
No,
You really don't want the reality check.
You only want to see the very tiny picture
No.
of where you think people want to go.
I'm happy to exercise.
Demographic of this island. Which, by the way, a lot of people would have been here if they had known about this meeting. This is nothing compared to what the amount of people that should have been here.
Peter, if I may.
I appreciate your passion, and I'm happy to exercise the argument, but so far, all the evidence suggests that that proposal is not viable.
To who?
The volume,
Council?
well, to everyone in this room.
Been very
Peter, if I may.
Sorry, I'll go Gail and then to you, sir.
Madam, I live on Macleay Island, okay? At the moment, if I want to bring my vehicle from Macleay Island to Russell Island, it takes me about 20 minutes, including loading time and off time and what have you, and it costs me $40. By the time I come around here and get off there and drive down the island, which...
$40 from the
Let me finish. Which is Peter is trying to explain to you. Then I drive down the island to Russell Island. I get on a cable barge and I go across to nowhere. Then I drive up to the highway and I decide to go right back to where my shopping centre is at Victoria Point, or left to the Gold Coast. It doesn't stack up. So, if I can just say one more thing, it's a very complex issue. The same as we're upset about paying an $88 levy for TransLink, we're all upset about it.
free Redlands.
We will all have to pay a levy for whatever happens. So it's very complex.
To Russell is...
Yeah.
All right, I've got
It
another
might be,
idea.
but apparently that's the thing. Now, hang on. I have in order, right? Hold on. Let me show you the order. You first. Then you, ma'am, with the purpley top or blue top. Then you, sir. Then I will come to you, and then you two down the front. Oh, sorry, you, sir, down the front. So, start us off. Sorry, at the back. My American friend. My American friend, sit down, please. Sit down, yeah. The guy at the back.
I'm just going to answer what Lindsay said, that the southern barge is not viable. The route that we've got at the moment is not viable. People are not using it. Years ago, the patronage is plummeted because it's so getting to Russell Island, that's 2 hours and 10 minutes to do the round trip. It's extremely expensive if you're a company and you're paying employees to sit on their arse for 2 hours and 10 minutes. And you know, $91 cost me on the internet. I think it's $110 or something like that, or $114. I can't remember. Now, the Rocky Island cable barge, as proposed by GHD, with a few tiny little modifications, was costed by Brian at $25 million, and he went down to some of the barge companies in New South Wales and asked them what would it cost to go across from on a cable barge at Rocky Point. The answer was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, the service would be viable at $10 return. So that was the barge companies down south said $10 return. So that's what I've quoted. Could be a bit more now because that was 3 years ago or 2 years ago. So let's say $15 return or something like 10, 15. Okay. Now if it ends up being 20, I don't think there's going to be a lot of people complaining on Russell Island when they're currently paying $91, and they'll certainly go up. Okay, so...
Indeed, there will be a private company at that rate willing to do it. Find them, bring them in and do it. You'll have our applause.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's the Ballina cable barge, which would be a little bit shorter than what the distance would be at Rocky Point. Actually, that's probably 500 metres.
The gap between the piles.
The gap between the piles is 600 metres. That's at Ballina, and it cost $4.80 when I was down there a couple of months ago. I'm not sure what the model...
All right. Thank you. All right, ma'am, was to you next.
On the barge in less than 2 years. That is a big problem. And I think the only way to go is a bridge.
Yep.
And Mark, when you're ready, please organise something whereby we don't sit here and the people with the loudest voices get heard. Because that's what's happening today. We're going round in circles.
But if I may, I think what it needs to happen is a discussion for each island community.
Yep.
Because every island is different. They've got different needs. And they've got different focus. I think that needs to be done. But I think we also need to form a partnership with the state to carry that out. And once we have that data collected, then it gives us a better position to look forward how we can move forward. The people on Russell Island certainly have needs which are probably different to Para, etc. And I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to talk to Peter after this about how we can move forward and do that, to get that data. The big question then is, what then? But at least we can get that data and we can have a look, we can publish that out so we all know where we are. But the main thing is that once we've got that, we actually have to do something tangible to achieve the outcomes, not just have the data there and sit there for 10 years, and then 10 years time the same thing, the same exercise gets done again.
So how will that start? How will that start?
Well, I need to talk to Peter and see what he put in mind when we get to the stage around council.
All right, now, at the start of the proceedings, a number of people were kind enough to fill out some questions, and those people are largely still in the room. I think we owe it to them now to run through some of these questions just very quickly, and then we can come straight back to this discussion. I think you're right. I think we've kind of gone around. There are differing views in the room. There are challenges, no doubt, but I think there is a way forward. I'm certain there's always a way forward, and I think I said earlier, the answer is not no, it's maybe not yet, it's not now, it's not this way, but the answer is never no. The answer is always yes.
I think the situation is desperate, really.
It is getting there, you're right. And I pointed out,
For 6 months because I could afford both the washing machine and to get a delivery person. That is the type of isolation I'm talking about.
You're right about the tipping point, and I think I mentioned that. That's why the PDA has become so important. The tipping point, the issues there. The tipping point for bridge, for connectedness between the islands is there. And we are rapidly approaching that tipping point. That's why it's important we start pushing that boat out, for want of a better analogy. All right, there's someone said remove dangerous trees. They didn't define which trees they were, but if you'd like to get in touch with council, that's probably more one I can bat off to you, Mark. And yes to a bridge. We have, when are we going to get broadbands to the islands? There's no more ports available. Satellite is lacks capacity. What science will the LNP bring to review of marine parks? Good question. The broadband one, I'm not looking to back them off, but it's an ongoing issue with IC, with internet connection on the islands. Same Victoria Point, Redland Bay, heaps of challenges and problems there. The federal government is trying to encourage people to extend their networks, namely Telstra. They're reluctant to do so in many circumstances because of the open market, that they have to provide the infrastructure and everyone else can use it kind of strategy. That's been a problem. With the rollout of NBN, Josh, help me, end of next year I think there was some opportunity for Redland Bay, is that right? Yeah, for the rollout of the NBN, and that will start to address it. So again, almost a catch-22, doesn't help you here and now. We don't have Telstra wanting to invest money when it's going to be overtaken in the future, in the not too distant future, with alternate strategies. So that's those. As far as what science will the LNP bring to the review of the national parks? That's a good question. I have an email address here, and I will respond to that directly. It's, you know, you do your normal biomapping, you do your analysis of what critters are in the marine park and those kind of things, and the reports that support that. They'll be done ordinarily independently, and then the department will make its findings, so that's that one. The next one, what's being done to upgrade phone services? I think that's been covered off by that first question. Bridges, alternate routes, bridges, poor phone computer signal, done. All right. I think there's a doctor in the room. What can be done about cheaper barge transport? What can be done about a bridge for both safety and, in brackets, evacuations, and to raise the profile of the SIMBI, improve property values also. So cheaper barge, possible bridge, greater pressure on real estate agents to reduce a certain class of tenants. I clanked that up a little. The question was raised earlier, and it was remiss of me not to pick it up on the way through, about the barge service. As a government, we don't subsidise, we don't regulate, we don't manage barge services as such. So the opportunity to subsidise, I think we talked about the Bass Highway as well, is not on the table. I'll take questions once I've got through these, if that's all right. We've talked about the bridge, we've kind of done that. I understand the safety and the escape, and also improving the livability on the islands. There will be some negative effect too with the connectedness of the islands. When the island, you know, if a bridge goes ahead, it will elevate landowners, you're right, and that pressure may push people out, and I'm mindful of that too. It may push older people out. So there are all those conflicts that we have and have to try and address, and or be mindful of at the very least. All right, bridge to Russell, done. Bridge. Oh, that was interesting. Ask landowners through their rates to support a bridge. Maybe that's the question, not actually funding the bridge. With the completion of 11,000 blocks of SIMBI land being held by council and or state, is it time to utilise these to bridge Russell Island? Again, it's a proposal that's been canvassed in using that land holding as leverage to finance bridge, barge, whatever. So again, part of the conversation going forward. Thus giving the parking at Wyndham Creek, so there'd be less pressure on the island, on Wyndham Creek to park and bridging the island, allow access to employment services, progress, etc. Bridge to Rocky Point and through to Stratty. Big mistake there. Cheaper fares for all of us, and the conversation, and again we did touch on it very briefly, the question was around forming your own council, just a Bay Island council. The financial modelling was the question that came back from the state government. The minister basically said, no, I don't think so. I don't believe it's financially viable, and basically back to you, council, is it viable? Because council put that proposal forward on behalf of Islanders. I don't believe they're viable on their own, and can I tell you that the challenges that you would face if you were to become your own council is, and I'll just play devil's advocate, if I was the councillor for Redland Bay and Mark was the councillor for the Bay Islands, there is no way I want to be having the Simbi people coming through my Redland Bay foreshore. Send them through Vicky Point, send them through Gold Coast, I don't care, but you're not coming shore here. And that kind of mentality would kick up because you wouldn't be your own council. You would have to be totally independent. So I think there's all those issues that would come to play. Sorry?
Introduce them. There's some fantastic dragon slayer there that he went through it.
You've got to have your services put out here, like all the trucks. My dad worked on it. Those road paving trucks are bloody expensive. I mean, a local council would need to buy all that shit for themselves, so they get like the gravel and all that across, and I don't see that as being a viable option.
Correct, so you're agreeing with me?
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I don't always argue.
I know, people have jumped on board and jumped off, and jumped back on and jumped off, depending on the issue, and that is my life. You can't please all the people all the time. We're pro-bridge, failed to see what the PDA has to do for the islanders, must have a bridge sooner rather than later. Bridge, when will there be one? Why am I being levied for transit? Will the islands ever be connected to each other?
No.
I think the last question's the easy one. I would struggle with that based on the feeling in the room and my assessment of, being a member now for 5 years. And that's the sense of things that I get from the islands. The middle question was, why am I being levied for TransLink? Council supported the proposition of TransLink. The state government facilitated that to happen. We invested a certain amount of money, and the numbers are escaping now. I thought it was in the order of about $500,000 in ticketing type infrastructure and the rollout of the system, and there was the ongoing subsidies that we invest in concessional fares. So that was kind of the line in the sand. Transport Minister said you can have it, but we're only going that far. If council wants to tip in the balance, and council did because they saw it was important and it was a good initiative, and then they elected what they felt was a fair and reasonable way to fill that gap, and that gap from memory was about 900,000 or something. It was just under $1 million, I think, was the gap, and they chose to fill that gap with subsidy on a 2-year trial. You were right, someone said a 2-year trial. So whether going forward that's the same model or not, that's a decision council will make. 2016, I think.
It's 2.5 years.
Oh, 2.5 years. I might be 2014, is it 2014, 2015? It's just a little way downstream, and council will evaluate the benefits to islanders, and that will be a decision for council. And the bridge, when will there be one? We can do that at the end. I've got one gentleman at the back who's got a question, and then I'll come back to you. Will you commit to all landowners of Russell Island officially by a council survey asking if they wish to be? I think that's one opportunity that we can. I will see if we can formulate a survey. It is problematic. I think your model that you've suggested, Mark, probably has more merit in having a proper island discussion with the 4 islands, isolating their needs and partnering with the state government to see, what the way forward is. Okay. Just a fairly straightforward statement. Barge for cars, light in Mogwell. That's it, that's the sum total there, that's fine. What proposals are currently for a cable barge? Can we please have some real action on this? Again, discussion we're going to have. Parking spaces here and on the mainland, more computer terminals at the library, and more open hours at the library. Make that up, Lord. More open, yes, at the library. Council has suggested the PDA will provide parking for Simply both now and into the future. How will each work, perhaps, or how will
Benchmark.
Sorry.
Benchmark.
How will a benchmark be included into the process? Parking required at ratios of 1 car per 4 residents, in brackets. Cheaper vehicle barge, current requirements 1 space per 4 persons. How will we benchmark it? Look, I'm not entirely sure the benchmark question, how that fits in, but my understanding is the studies suggest that within 10 years we need to be up around 2,500 car parks, and I think I've demonstrated earlier how we might achieve that. In the first instance, we have an ability, when you do the calculations, to accommodate 500 cars on ground, at grade is the expression. Just means flat on the area that we have available. If you put 2 levels on top of that, so you then effectively have three floors. It's 2 stories but 3 floors. That provides 1,500. That is absolutely where we are right now from a parking point of view, and that includes the overflow parking apparently in private holdings. So right here, right now, government provides around 1,100. The number, according to this one, is 1,192, so nearest down at 1,200 car parks. If we go to 3 levels, we're already providing 300 more than is currently available on council holdings, on government holdings, out on the streets. So by going to those 3 stories, we've addressed the need and some growth. And if you design it in such a way that you can put 2 more on, fantastic. That then gives you 2,000 in a few years' time as the need grows and demand grows, and then to another level a few years down the track, and that'll be driven by demand, and that will be based on growth on the island.
So there's still,
I think that has
2 cars.
I think that has ensured the future expansion, and then if needed, you go.
But what, for 2,500 cars.
We'll come back to that when
yeah.
I've finished. I've got 3 or 4 more questions. We've got an order. A gentleman at the back, someone down.
No, she's gone.
She's gone. We'll be back to you. Okay. Where did these come from? Oh. Marina for parking at Redland Bay, please. Just parking. I think we've kind of done most of that. Is council going to consider old and elderly people when distributing parking? On the mainland, too far to carry staff, have to walk miles, jetty hazard for elderly, know of severe accidents occurring. When will the sensible thing be done regarding a bridge? Section next door has someone complaining about an adjoining allotment. I'll probably put that one to you in the form, so that's fine. What is being done with the parking? I think we've kind of danced all around that all day. Would like a bus around the island to the ferry. A bridge would save all the arguments and expensive car parking on the mainland and the island, save valuable waterfront land from being taken up by parked vehicles. More a comment, I would have thought, than a question. Other than would like a bus. I think over the years there's been I think there's been 2 bus trials that I recall. I think there was one on Macleay. Might have actually been 2 on Macleay, where a bus was running around. Council subsidised it or funded it for a while when I was on council, and we just didn't get the patronage. It was about a $2 ride, and just couldn't get people on the thing for love of the money. And so it was a disastrous failure. Whether or not the appetite has changed, whether or not, you know, the opportunity here on Russell is better than it was on Macleay, I don't know. But again, it's a question that maybe Mark and I can sit down and have. It might be a conversation that we can have with the broader community. The one thing I have found when it comes to public transport is everyone wants it for the other guy. They don't want it for themselves, they want it for the other guy, to get them off the road, to get them to leave their car at home. Impact on quality of life. I don't know if it's for or against, I'll impact on quality of life of a bridge, including taxes, crime, drugs, tourism. Some of them are good, some of them are good, and some of them are bad. I'm just not entirely sure, you know, how, whether that's a question. But anyway, that's fine. I have an email address, and I'll try and bounce something back to them just to see if there's some clarity there. Will State Holdings have involvement in the final evaluation of tendering for Wine Creek PDA? I think the question is, and I'm trying to second guess, will the state land be on the chopping block? Is it up, you know, is it part of the leverage? Yes, it is, absolutely. Deputy Premier was very clear about that. We do have skin in the game, and if needs be, whether it be lease, whether it be sale, it's just, you know, we've got to evaluate all of the expressions of interest that come in. We've heard something about
Little Islanders, who are the biggest stakeholders for Wine Creek, will we have any involvement in the tendering and evaluation process?
no. The short answer, no. The tender and evaluation process will be a process that will be managed through the EDQ, the Economic Development Department of State Government, and Council. It will have some involvement and some consideration by myself, Mark, and by the Mayor, Karen Williams, and obviously the Minister, the Deputy Premier, and the Minister for Infrastructure Planning. We've been out to the community. We'll go out with the expression of interest, and we'll hopefully get someone who's interested and wants to invest and sees the potential of that site and that precinct, and try and unlock that potential. But as far as coming back to the community to decide who built it, that's not in the timeline.
Not necessarily the community, but any sort of representation from the community. If you had a...
You are getting absolutely, you are getting 100% community input on that via myself, Mark, and Karen. You've elected us to do that bidding for you. You've elected us to do that bidding for you. And believe me, our priorities are about outcomes for the islanders and for the precinct. Not about developers making a quid. It's about them delivering what we need. Okay. Please help establishment of something park. Is it Pinnacle Park? On near the avocado farm. What's there's some farm. Please help establishment of something park on Oasis Drive, the old avocado farm. I'm not sure what that means.
The person who said it's still here.
Look, I don't want to name people, and I've been very deliberate about not saying who asked what, so I'm just delivering the questions as well as I can. What is happening to improve the car travel to the mainland? Could we have cable to Stradbroke with tourist road to Dunwich? I think the short answer there is no, thank you. City Council reticent on mowing the park, therefore I wish to All right, it's a council thing about park not being mowed and an adjoining property, so I'll bat that on to Mark and he can chase that through for you. And no question, fantastic. All right, now, the lady, sir, at the back. There was a gentleman at the back who had a question. All right, he's done a runner, and we just got to him. I had this lady,
Hail, five.
If you go out to the people and ask their opinions on whether we want a bridge or not, can you please make sure that you have some boxes to tick saying how much are you prepared to pay to travel on this bridge, starting with zero and maybe jumping up in $50 lots, so that you get a fair assessment of what people really want. Because most people want a bridge for nothing. And if they say they want a bridge for nothing, it's absolute garbage.
Yeah, look, I think, and it's something we need to get our minds around. I think if you were to ask that question, the question is not how much are you prepared to pay, because I've done those surveys before, and everyone says, yeah, I'm fine with $50. The minute you hit them up to $50, they bleed and they carry on because it's way too much. When they're filling out a form, that's fine. They get really warm and fuzzy and think, I could do that. The better option is, we have the discussion. Is it what you want? Is it what we need? Is it the way forward? Is it the future? And if the answer to those questions is yes, then you say, well, here's the best place we can do it for a whole host of reasons. It's best because it's the shortest. It's best because it puts them into the right location. It's best for whatever the reason might be. But then you say, well, okay, that's the route that we're going to use, and that's the method and style we're going to do. That will cost us X. Then we need to calculate how many people will use it. How many people will travel over it every day? What's the payback over 10 years? That equates to X amount of dollars per journey. And then you ask that question. Are you prepared to pay? Or, if you're going to have a bridge or a barge, this is what it will cost you. There's no grey area. I can't be all warm and fuzzy and say, would you stand $50? Would you stand $10? Where's the tipping point? I need to say, this is the cost. Right now today, if we build this bridge, this will be the cost every time you cross it. And that's the only question that's really valid, once you've done all the other sums. Sorry, Gal?
Peter, thank you for taking another question from me. Given that the bridges may or may not happen, but there will be some distance into the future, we're all agreed. Am I incorrect in suggesting that the state government subsidise private barge carriers across the Daintree and across the Jardine River in North Queensland? Given that they may do that, I understand the legislation here, but why is the legislation in North Queensland different to the legislation here for the same private operators?
That's a fantastic question, and you wouldn't have asked it if you didn't know full well that they were subsidised. I was not aware of it, and I don't know the answer to your question.
Okay, so in the short term, to ease people's pockets whilst we investigate these other things, would that not be a question you could find out? And perhaps it's just a simple legislative change that needs to occur at state government level to assist people to and from, which will also assist some of the cries for more space at William Creek.
Could I impose upon you to write that question down and bounce it to me as an email question? Two reasons. One is so I don't forget, and B, so you can actually give me the facts around those two, the Jardine and whatever the other river was. Or maybe Lindsay would,
I write to you frequently, but you don't answer.
Why is it that we can't pop up the train twinkle in the boats when they're fully operational and it can be done? Buses have it, why don't our boats?
Look, it was a decision that the operators made. I don't believe they want to handle cash because of their exposure, and it's just something that as a business model they chose not to do. The Brisbane City Council buses, as I understand it, don't do top-ups either. The Brisbane buses Veolia do, but that's a business choice that they made. It's not something that we, as a state government, we don't order it, we don't make it happen, we don't, make people do it. It's a business model choice, and I think it was about carrying cash. It was about the security and safety of the guys handling money and all of those kind of scenarios.
Even the Russell Island taxi drivers have been threatened about that too. I don't blame them for not wanting to handle cash with some of the demographics that live around here.
Okay, thank you. In agreement again. I'm loving it. I'm winning. So that's my understanding of the rationale behind it. Getting top-ups on the island, we're in the middle of negotiating with new systems, new technologies for readers, so we don't have any more machines to provide the top-up. I think, is it on Macleay you can top up, but not on Russell, or is it vice versa?
Can't top up on Macleay and Torrey.
Yeah.
You can here.
And it's something we are addressing.
So why don't they have their ticket box open for longer, because they shut early?
Define early.
Open late.
Define early and late.
Well, if you're coming down there at 7 o'clock, if you're finished work at say 5...
Tell me what their hours are, please. That's what I don't know.
Well, they're showing you at 6:15.
6:15 in the morning?
No,
In the afternoon?
So I don't know what time they open.
Yeah. Yeah.
6:15.
Look,
You've got somebody coming back.
again, I suggest that it's just an out-and-out business model that they have. That's all I can suggest. And I don't know.
They're not there.
They're providing the barge service. If you wanted to, you could top up on the bus when it pulls up. If you wanted to, you could go to any of the other outlets at Redland Bay, Victoria Point, and in town to top up your go-kart. You can top up your go-kart online, or do what I do. Every time my my go-kart gets down to $5 or below, it automatically puts 20 on it straight off my credit card. So I get on the boat and it says I've got $3 left. By the time I go back, it'll be $23 on the way out. It's just an automatic loading, and I find that dead easy, because nothing worse than getting caught short, on a ferry or on because I use the ferries in town a bit. I use the ferries.
Right, now, are they able to refuse a passenger back to the island if they haven't got sufficient funds in their go-kart and they don't have any cash on time, given that's the only way they...
The simple answer is yes. If you don't...
They offer a ticket, a ticket saying you've got to pay this like they used to do on the boat previously, or you get...
It is a business model. You need to talk to the ferry operators. My understanding is no card, no cash, no ride. That's my understanding.
And what about if it's a child?
What about if it's a child?
Well, if it's a child,
It's a rule that you cannot leave
a child
children
behind. So if you've got a child that's stuck over there that can't get back,
Define child.
well, anybody that's up to year 12 is classified as a child.
Don't have school passes?
Yeah, but I've got one that goes to Redland Bay State School for whatever reason.
So you've had a child refused access?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But in the event that I did, what would be the scenario then?
I think you'll find that common sense will prevail, and the ferry operators will look at the circumstances and the situation, and my guess is they'd allow the child to go. I thought you were going, rowdy behaviour, and I know people have been barred off the ferry for bad behaviour. The other passengers shouldn't have to put up with that nonsense, and, yeah.
Just a quick one. When you do your survey of who wants a bridge from what islands, are you taking into account the mainlanders? Like all of us have got family somewhere, with them coming over, they'll be coming over.
Yeah.
Not just the islanders going that way.
The question is, and I think the question's actually been overtaken, in as much as the question was around the survey. And I think Mark's strategy is probably a better option, but we won't rule out the survey. No, I'm not going to canvass the mainland.
No, but are you going to take into consideration people coming this way?
Look, there'll be friends and relatives who come across. There's no doubt about that.
So you've got to take them into account.
I don't know how to actually quantify that.
For numbers.
It'll be one of those things that will be part of the conversations, but you could never quantify it. It's like tourism, it's like, you know, counting the people who go to Stradbroke Island. If they have a wet Easter, no one goes there. If they have good weather, they all go there.
So what about mainland island ratepayers?
I'm sorry, your question?
With the canvassing of who would want a bridge,
yes.
What about all the people that live on the mainland that own land on the islands? Will they be included?
That's the question that we need to resolve between myself and Mark. Whether or not we go down the survey, if it's ratepayers are the landowners, it doesn't matter where they live. They could live in, you know, Germany, Dubai, Denmark. They could live in, you know, Cleveland, Capalaba, Victoria Point. If we go down that path, then that's how it will be. You know, they'll get it. But if we just decide to do it as residents as opposed to the landowners, again, a question I need to reconcile with Mark as to a good way forward and what the questions are.
How do you get projects? You don't include everybody back. Ratepayers and monitoring. How do you get that holistic approach to everybody?
It's not easy.
Well, aren't you then marginalising?
Do you know what? No matter how many ways I survey, no matter how many times I ask, no matter who I ask, I will be able to find you someone that I didn't ask. And I'll be the world's worst for it. Look, I'm mindful of the time. Stop please, stop for a second, man, please. We were wrapping up at 3:30, we've passed that now. What I will do is I'm still hanging in, right? So I do apologise we've run over, but I am staying here. I just don't know what time the next boat out of here is. All right. Now, sorry, ma'am, your question.
Can I just say that I agree that it should go out to everybody, like all the islands should know what's going on, especially for a forum like this. And to me, the only way to get this out is through something like the Friendly Bay Islander or something like that, because it really is quite appalling that just very few people turned up to something so important for our islands.
Well, over 220 people read the South Moreton Bay Islanders Facebook for this notice. How many of them turned up?
Yeah, we need more.
It was out there. It was on 4 Facebook sites right across the island.
It was fairly widely canvassed, but the problem is it is a Saturday.
And the headmaster then told me that less than 2/3 of the parents at the school have computers, so they're not going to see it on the computer anyway.
That's right.
So there's a big demographic of a lot of different kinds of people, and I would certainly like to see more people involved in this. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah,
And the
that's a
other
fair
thing I
point.
wanted to ask you was, how much is the car park going to cost a person if it goes ahead a day?
Well, as I said, there'll be probably 4 parking options. 4. The first one is people have said they would like to buy and own their own car park space. It happens now throughout the world, normally in central city type destinations, but you can buy and own one. Whatever. Please, ma'am, let me finish. I've had people on the islands tell me that they're prepared to spend $20,000 or $30,000 to buy a car park. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But that offer needs to be on the table. If they take it up, that's up to them, right? That's option 1. Option 2 is the current arrangement that you have where people have a casual lease with council, where they pay, I think it's $1,200 a year or thereabouts, to park within the compound. So there will be potentially up to 1,000 people that take that option based on the current waiting list and the current supply. That's option 2. Option 3 will be some area of needed parking for people like me who just travel through, are there for a couple of hours, just visiting the island. No, that's needed. And the third one is the free. Fourth one, sorry, is free. They're the 4 options that I would imagine into the future.
For our proposed car park?
There'll be 4.
I've already put them out there.
There'll be 4.
That's what I've actually said. Sorry?
And everybody on these islands knows that?
Well, everyone who's read or followed any of my commentary, yes, they're aware of that. I see those four models as being a must. And the only thing that I don't know in my own mind yet is what the demand is for the free. And the free will only grow. I think the demand for the free is probably around the 500 mark.
What about stay for weekends or a week?
Fine. They can run the gauntlet and try and find a free spot. Or they can park off-road or on-road. Or they can pay the meter parking. Or they can use your spot that you lease for the year. Or they can just get a taxi or a bus down there. There's a whole host of options. But you know what? My concern is you living here, not so much your visitors. Your visitors will do what they've always done. They'll find their spot, they'll get their way over here.
Actually,
Sorry, the four...
that wasn't for visitors, that was for everybody on this island who owns a second car that we all needed to be able to work and live on this island. There are so many people that have had to own their second car. I wasn't talking visitors.
No, sorry, the lady in the front wanted the visitors. No, the lady in the front here went the visitor road, and I was just answering that. I wasn't...
Well, I'm going to reiterate on that and say that this wasn't for visitors.
Yeah.
This was for not people who actually live here.
They're the four parking elements, as I said, and you're right. People buying one, I don't think there'll be much appetite for that. But if there is, it'll be available. The leasing, there's currently an appetite for that. There are people already paying. And then you've got a short-term visitor type arrangement, the likes of me, and I use me as the example, would go to the metered area. And then you've got the free. Now I think what will happen is the people who are currently waiting to get into that compound will move to the secure parking within the new parking structure. I can see them moving there and taking that up. That will actually lessen the requirements in all the other areas outside the compound, because you've got, essentially 400 or 500 people competing with you for the 18-hour, for the 1 day, for the 3 day, for the 7-day parking spots. Those people are people waiting to get into the compound, or at least 400 or 500 of them. So that then lessens that demand on the free. But the question about the disabled parking, and I kind of went past it, and I shouldn't have. There is a requirement. I think we need to probably double or triple the requirement. Sorry, the required amount. The calculation is we provide X. I think we're going to go 2 or 3 or 4 times that, because there is a much higher percentage of pensioner and people with the mobility, or not mobility, sorry, the disabled labels. And I think that's important that we get that up close.
Well, bottom line is the bridge or cable barge.
Hang on, you keep going there, ma'am, and I love your enthusiasm, right? I did get the point.
It's a big joke.
But,
It keeps going round.
no, the other 3 islands have said no to a bridge.
But they
Hang on, stop. I'm addressing all 4 islands, and the answer is different.
One size doesn't fit all. Why am I surprised?
Just a couple of things I'd like to draw.
Lindsay, come over here. Please.
There's a couple of facts that I need to just make sure everyone's aware of. I mean, I don't need to, but just I am aware of them. The bridge and the cable barge end on the mainland, not in Redland City. They end in Gold Coast City. The Gold Coast City has said previously, I don't know currently, that they're not interested. So that would have to be overcome.
Who said that, so I can take it up with them?
Within Redland City Council.
They said, the Gold Coast said that they weren't going to let us land it. All right, I'll take that up with
Probably 3
me
years
too.
ago, I don't know. The other, just drawing your attention to it. The other thing is we keep hearing about the $10 barge, cable barge. That doesn't stack up. Even as Gail said, if you find a company to do it, that's fine, because out of $25 million cable barge, and that's what GHD estimated, paid back over 25 years at 11.5% internal rate of return, requires a fare of $102.58 return. Now that's accounting. I'm not an accountant, but it's all been checked, and you can't latch on the figures that people throw around. You've got to do the sums. No, I'm sorry, I have...
You've already got your parking spot, right? You've already got it. It's been kissed and blessed.
I'm not saying no to anything.
These people in Russell Island would like a bridge. Yes. So why do you always try and scuttle the people here on Russell Island? You have got your parking spot.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attendance here today. It's been a delight.
It's been fantastic.
See you later. Looks like that's another family on this. All right, look, I'll wind it up now, but I'm happy to, I've got a map of the CDA area. If you want to have a look at some of my thoughts around that, happy to go over those with you.
The Stooges come over here to poo-poo.
I've got, maps and diagrams and what have you. I am going to hang around for a while. I'm going to make Mark pack up the chairs because he's done nothing for me. Did you hear that, Mark? I said, I'm going to have you packing up the chairs because you've done absolutely nothing for me today. All right. Look, thanks, Mark, for coming. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not racing off. Thank you.